Hey class, this book I'm sharing with you guys is titled Infinity Ring, and it's by James Dashner. This book is super cool, and if you really like time traveling and kind of sci-fi stuff like that, you're gonna really like this. And even if you're not into that kind of stuff, I would give this a try because this is a really cool book. So this is about three friends who travel through time to try to fix things and make things right, and they go on all these different adventures through time, and it's just super awesome. It's packed full of adventure and action and also a lot of really awesome friendship. So I'm going to read the prologue and the first chapter to you guys, so I hope you like it. This is the first book, and there are multiple books in this series. Dak Smith sat on his favorite bench of his favorite tree, right next to his favorite friend, Sarah Frosta. Not a bad way to spend a Saturday afternoon, he thought. Beyond the safety of the tree, there was plenty to worry about. The world was falling apart, and the people in charge of things didn't seem to care. But Dak decided not to let little stuff like that bother him now. Sarah apparently agreed. Feels good up here, she said, doesn't it? Yeah, it sure does. Makes me kind of sad I wasn't born a monkey. Then I could live on one of these things. Sarah laughed. You've got the personality of a monkey and the smell. That's 2/3 of the way there at least. Thanks, Dak said, as if she'd just paid him a tremendous compliment. A soft breeze made the branches sway back and forth, just enough to soothe Dak into a partial trance. He and Sarah climbed up the tree every so often. When there was nothing else to do. It gave them a chance to talk away from any distractions like adults who complained constantly about taxes and crime rates, and in whispers about the SQ. With all the mental static, it was a wonder Dak and Sarah managed to get any thinking done. Fortunately, they were both geniuses, although in very different ways. You excited for the field trip this week? Sarah asked. Dak looked over at her, slightly suspicious. Their class was going to a museum full of history, which he loved, and not a whole lot of science, which was her passion, but the question seemed genuine. Remember my last birthday, he asked in return, when I got the replica of Thomas Jefferson as Scott? How could I forget? You came screaming down the street like a girl who just found a bucket full of candy. Dak nodded, relishing the memory. Well, I'm even more excited about this trip. Gotcha. That's pretty excited. They sat in silence for a while. Dak enjoyed the breeze and the sounds of nature and the break from the rest of life. Gradually, though, he realized that Sarah seemed far less relaxed. There was unmistakable tension in her shoulders that had nothing to do with the tree climbing. He followed her gaze across the yard to his front porch, where his parents had recently put up a new flag. The small flagpole affixed to the side of the house was usually used for seasonal display. Holiday flags in the winter, the 48 states starred U.S. flag in the long summer months. Now, for the first time, Dak's parents had put up a stark white flag with a black symbol in its center. That symbol was a circle broken by a curve and a thunderbolt by the sign of the SQ. Don't tell me your parents buy into all of that, Sarah said, her voice solemn. I don't think so. They said it's easier this way. They're less likely to be bothered if they just put up the flag. The SQ. They make me sick, Sarah said. Dak had never heard such fierceness in her voice. Someone has got to stand up to them eventually, or someday it's going to be too late. Dak listened to her as he stared out into the woods beyond his house. That green, all those animals, there were parts of the world where these kind of places had disappeared entirely. He'd read enough history to know that where the SQ went, trouble followed. He suddenly felt his own little burst of determination. Maybe it'll be us who stands up, he said. You never know. Yeah, she answered absently. There's an old saying, Dak told her. The times, they're changin'. Oh, I like that. Maybe that'll be our model. Maybe we'll change the times someday. Every problem has a solution, right? And our big brains have got to be good for something. What do you say? She looked over at him and stuck out her hand. He shook it hard. Somewhere nearby, a bird chirped excitedly. Chapter 1, The Only Hope. Brent Takashi stared at the monitor and tried to remember a time when he didn't know the world was about to end. Maria Rivera, his second in command, sat next to him, and the way she was slowly shaking her head back and forth, she seemed to be the second most depressed person on the planet. Brent was the first. Well, Marie asked, what do you think? What do I think? I think we have a global catastrophic on our hands, Brent replied. Volcanic eruptions all along the Pacific Rim, blizzards in the parts of South America that have never even snowed before. If we're lucky, the tropical storm brewing in the Atlantic might put out the wildfires in the Northeast. Look on the bright side, Marie said, her voice grim. At least people believe we're in trouble now. People still believe what the SQ tells them to believe, because fear is always more powerful than truth. He ran his fingers through his dark hair and sighed. Our Stoll would be so proud. Look what the historians have been reduced to. The SQ is going to win, even if it means destroying the world. It wasn't just the natural disasters that had him worried, or the blackouts, or the food shortages. There were also the remnants. Every day when Brent went home and looked at the picture that hung above the fireplace, he and his wife sitting by a river, the sun glistening off the water behind them, he felt disoriented, twisted his head and his stomach, and gnawing gap in his mind that made him extremely uncomfortable. Someone, at least one someone, was missing from the photo. It made no sense whatsoever, but he knew in his bones that someone was missing from that photo. He wasn't alone in suffering these types of sensations. More people experience remnants with each passing day. They'd strike when you least expect them, and they could drive you crazy, literally crazy. Time had gone wrong. This is what the historians believe. And if things were beyond fixing now, there was only one hope left: to go back in time and fix the past instead. Marie did what she always did when he was inclined to whine. She ignored him and moved on to the task at hand. What's the latest on Smiths? She asked. Of all the scientists the historians tracked, they were the only ones who hadn't been shut down by the SQ yet. Brent pulled up their file and pointed at the latest developments. All of the Smiths' experience, findings, data, every little thing they did in their lab, each and every day. It was all being monitored by the historians. Without the Smiths' knowledge, of course, Brent would be sure to apologize for that after they saved the world. They both fell silent for a minute, staring at the data on the screen as if hypnotized. The Smiths were so close. If only they could figure out the missing piece in their calculations. If only they could give the historians a fighting chance at carrying out Astral's 2,000-year-old plan to save the world. It's coming, you know, Marie whispered. Sooner than I ever thought. Brent nodded as dread squeezed his heart. I never would have guessed it would be in our lifetime. Marie continued, her words like a prophecy of doom from a wrinkled old oracle. It's coming, all right. The catalysm is coming, and we all wish we were dead long before it kills us. So that is the end of chapter 1. And again, this is the Infinity Ring. If you want to see what happens in the rest of the story, what places they travel, what they can fix, what troubles they face, I would definitely recommend getting this book. So please contact me or Miss Weimer, and we will hook you up with this book, and I think you're really going to like it. Thanks, guys.